So let's first create a new component. So let's move to our, or it's already here. So you have already added the add task, which is this one. So let's see the routes. So you have added the routes. Okay, so we have our components. It's already here. So let's move to add task and see. So I think it's add or create. Let's go back to our app.jsx. So task create, not add. Okay, so task creates. So we need task and creates. So now we have our components. So let's first start with the variables that we need. So we need a new variable. Let's call this task and set task. And we have here the use states, and we need the title of our task. So it will be an empty string. And we need also the body. So it will be an empty string. And we need also the category ID and also an empty string. What else we need? So we need, so I think that's all. We need another variable. So if we have, so we will add validation errors. So if we have validation errors, so let's call it validation errors. And here set validation errors or form validation errors. So here validation, let's do something. So form validation errors, set form validation errors, and we give it null as default value. So we give it null. So next, what we need another variable. So we'll add spinner later. So here let's add loading and set loading. So we'll add spinner also to our home page. So here we have our state, and let's give it false as default value, false. And what else we need? So we need to navigate. So once we create tasks, so we need to navigate the user to the home page. And I think that we have already added the React router, so we can import. Let's import the use navigate, and we get it from React router. So from here. So what else we need? So I think that's all. So we need also to get the categories, because we need to choose a category when we create the task. And to get the categories, we can do the same thing like we have done in the home page. So let's define here categories and use the categories that we have already defined, and don't forget to import it here. Okay, so now we have everything we need. So all we need to do is to add our form. So we have a div, let's give it a class and class name. And class name here, let's give it row and margin top and bottom of 5. And what else we need? We need another div with a call md6 and mx auto. And we need another div with a card. And we need another div with a card header and bg white. And inside we need another each. Let's give it each 4. And also margin top of 2. And here let's add create new task. So save, let's take a look. So let's make here test text to the center and save and see again. So now it's better. So next we need the card body. So div with card body. And inside we need to add our form, and so we don't need action, so later we will add our action. And we need the first field, which is the title. So let's go here, let's find search, so this one, let's copy this field and paste it here. So what we have here, we have, so let's make it, so the type, let's make it text, and here it will be for the title. Here the placeholder, let's make it title, and on change, so we set the task, and we set the previous, or we keep the previous values as they are, and we change only the title, and we give it the e.target.title, which is the title that the user has chosen. Okay. Next, what we need to, let's copy this line or this div and paste it again. So we need the body. So the body in our case will be a text area. And name, the type, so we don't have a type, so the name here, let's make it body. Here let's add content or body or anything you want. So on change we update the body, and here we need to close our text area. Okay, so let's give it also rows, let's give it rows, let's give it or we can use the curly braces and give it only 5. So let's save and see what we have here. So we have the title, we have the body. What else we need? We need now the categories. So we can or the user can choose a category. Okay, let's use another div with margin bottom of 3. And here we need to use select box. So it's select, so the name, let's give it category ID, and also here category ID. What else we need? So we need, let's add also here on change. So let's copy this part and paste it here. So let's add here, let's organize. So here we need category ID, and we give is the e.target.value. Next, we need to loop through each category. So let's use the categories, or before we use the categories. So let's add parentheses and use the categories dot map, and we get each category. And here we return JSX, and we need the option, and option, so the value, let's give it category ID, and inside, so here we can display the category dot, so what we need name, that's all. Save, let's see what we have here. So we have our categories here. Okay, so let's give it, so we did not give this select box class, let's give it, I think they have form select, they have form control and form select. So save, let's see what we have. So I think now it's better. Okay, we can do something if you want. We can add another option here, and this option we can make it, or the value we can make it empty, and we give it disabled, and we can add here choose category, but I don't think that it will work. So let's save and see. So let's see our console. So here each child should have a unique key. Okay, let's see here. Let's give this option also a unique key. So we have here the value. Let's add also the K. So the K we can use the category dot id. So save. Let's refresh the page just to be sure. So let's see, we don't have anything. Okay, so this one, I think it's working. Okay, let's see. So as I said, we can use here, choose a category, and we can use this option. Let's see what we have. So we don't, so here we have the choose category, so it's not selected. Okay, let's use, or let's give it, so I think that we need to give this select box, we need to give it default value. And the default value in our case, let's make it an empty string. Let's see. So it didn't work. Let's refresh. So now it's working. So this is the good approach. So we don't, or we can choose here a category, and the default value of the select box will be the empty string, which is this option that we have here that has this value. Okay. So don't add the selected. If you add here selected, so it will not work. If you add here selected and you remove the default one and you save, so let's check our console. Let's refresh the page. So sometimes when filming, so the hot loading is not working properly. So as you can see, use default value instead of selected. Okay. So this is the error that I was looking for. So instead of using selected, so use default value, and the default value will be the empty string. Okay. So now what we need to do, we need to add the final thing, which is the button. So later, as I told you, we'll add a spinner. So let's add here the button, and the button type, let's make it submit. And here we can add submit, and let's give it also a class. So a class, and class in our case beta n sm and beta n dark. So save. Let's go, and we need, let's add this. So we need to make it outside of select div. So let's make it outside and save. So let's take a look. So I think it's the same. So I think I have added, I have here a missing tree. So sometimes the emmet also doesn't work. So let's see. So we have tree. So here we have the margin 3. Let's make it only, I think 3 is a little bit bigger. So let's make it 2, and here 2, and here also 2, and let's save and see. So I think now it's better. If we submit, so we'll get an error, but we did not add yet the function. So even though we submit, so we don't have the function. So sorry, I thought that I have already added the function, so we did not add the function. So even though we submit, so we get nothing. So let's add our function. Let's see if we can copy. Let's copy this function. And where is the add task? So here, let's paste it. And let's organize this code that we have here. So here, let's change it to add task, and it's an sync function. And here we will receive the event, and we need to use e.prevent default to prevent the default behavior of our browser, so to not refresh the page. And next, what we need to do, we need to set the loading to true, and we will add spinner later. And what else we need? So now we need to send our request, so we don't need to test for anything. So let's remove these ones and keep only this one that we have here. So the request will be posted, and it will take us. So let's check the route here. So the tasks, we have the API resource. It will take us to API/tasks. So this is the route. So we can add a new task. And what else we need? So since this is a post request, so we need to send also the task. So let's send also the task that we have defined. And what else we need? So here once we get the response, so let's see what we are returning. So we are returning the task and the message. Okay. So what we need to do, let's add here only, let's use toast. So we have already added toast. So let's import it and let's add here a success message and use the response.data.message. Okay. So the message that we have here, this one. So next, what we need to do here, if we have an error, so we'll console and log the error, and if we have an error, so we'll set the error, or we'll console and log the error, and finally we set the loading to false. And later, as I told you, we will handle validation errors. So now we have this function. Let's copy the name and use it here. So once or when we submit, we get the event and we have add task and we have the events here. Okay, so save. Let's refresh the page just to remove if we have any previous errors. So submit. So let's see, Axios is not defined, so I forgot to import also Axios here. So I think we have imported everything. Let's do that again. So submit. So let's see. So as you can see, we have 422, which is the validation errors. So let's check the response, the title, the body, and category. Okay. So now let's try to add a new task. So submit. So something went wrong. So what is the problem? So we still have. So we are sending. So here we don't have anything. Why we don't have? Why we don't have? As you can see, we have an empty title and body and category ID. Why we have? So we have updated the title, the body here, so inside our form. So here we set the task, we keep it previous, and we give it the title. So why it's sending an empty form? And the problem is here, so I just noticed. So instead of using e.targets.value, so I have used the title. So I think it's same thing also here. And same thing here. So I just noticed it. So instead of using value, so I use the title. So this is the problem. And also we need to add value to our fields. So let's add the task.title. So I forgot to add the value to each field. So even though I do my best to not forget anything, so each time I fail. So also here we have typo. So we need the body, name body, and ID body, and here the task body. And we need to do the same thing here. So instead of using now the default value, we can use the category ID, which is also an empty string. So save. Let's refresh the page. So let's fill the form again, submit. So as you can see, your task has been added. Let's check our network, check tasks. So let's see the response. So we have our task and we have the message. Okay. So now we have fixed this problem, but I think that we did not navigate the user to our home page. So let's use navigate and navigate him to the home page. And let's see what we have. If we refresh the page again, let's add another one. Let's refresh just to be sure that so the choose category. is the default one. Okay, let's refresh the page. So just sometimes it takes time to get categories. That's why we have only to choose category. So we can select this default one, and we can select a category from here, and also title and body, and submit, and we are redirected to the home page. So let's check the third page. So I think this is the tasks that we have added. So as you can see, 1 minute and 10 seconds. Okay. So what is next? So before we move to the edit or the update and delete, so we need to display the form validation errors. So as I told you, so if we send an empty form, so we get validation or form validation errors. So we need to display form validation errors. Okay. So let's do that now.